welcome back to my channel and welcome to my disaster zone. This is the room of the house that I really try not to show on my channel because it really doesn't represent what our lifestyle and what our home typically looks like. This has become kind of the black hole of Montessori activities that are out of rotation. And this is definitely not the way that Montessori should be implemented. You should really have a system and a way to really organize the materials that are out of rotation for you. But in reality, with how quickly things move, especially when kids are younger, and really the amount of space and pre-planning that you need, a lot of us end up shoving the toys in a box and just putting them behind closed doors, hoping to take care of it at some later time. Unfortunately for me, this room is the first thing you see when you walk into the house and has 0 doors. So I really need to take care of this giant mess. Stella's playroom is right next door without a door, and she has become way too mobile for this to remain the way that it is. Let's get cleaning. The first area we're actually going to tackle is this little cabinet right here because it has all of this space. And I have a lot of books that we got passed down from my brother and my mom, so I really want to utilize this space to store as many books as possible, and hopefully I can even fit some of the toys that are out of rotation in here.
If you're into minimalism, you may have been drawn to Montessori due to the concept of toy rotation, where the child's play space looks really tidy because there are only several toys out on the shelf at all times, and all of the other toys are rotated out. One thing to keep in mind is that those toys do still need to be stored somewhere, and that is where the prepared environment and the prepared adult come into play. As we see here by this Valentine's Day balloon that I still have in May, I am not always the prepared adult.
The reality of being married to an engineer.
In his defense, that is the only item of his that is out of place, and I've got my pump, I've got birthday balloon weights, I've got all sorts of stuff to tackle here. The biggest difficulty in implementing toy rotation for me has been the fact that I don't have a dedicated space for storing extra materials that are out of rotation or have not yet been introduced to Stella. And that's why I ended up utilizing the extra office space that we have, so now we've got text documents next to farm animals.
An entire bag of books, and an entire box of books.
The mess in this room is definitely made worse by the fact that we've just been recently passed down a lot of extra materials and books, which is amazing, but I mean, I've got 3 different containers full of books. I'm not going to be buying books for this girl anytime soon. So there's definitely a lack of space and also an abundance of materials that I need to take care of now.
Found another box. She's been really loving her first word book, so I think she'll definitely like this because it's just a little bit different from the one that we currently have for her.
So as long as you've got a space set aside for rotating toys in and out, you're not going to accumulate this giant mess that I've had, and you're going to keep that minimalism aesthetic that Montessori comes with.
So in the back are the books that she will use faster than these books, but not quite yet. And in the front of these will be the books that I think she'll be interested in now that we just need to put in and out of rotation with her other books.
If there's one item I think you can never have too many of, it's definitely books.
Okay, so now that I've got these boxes emptied out, I'm going to try to move all of this mess in here and in some of the empty space I've got over there, and hopefully can make all of this just disappear. That'll be nice and clean. Let's go.
Looks like I'm going to be the mom that keeps every single piece of art that my child makes.
I got all of these animal packs for her that I definitely need a place to store because she's really enjoying them right now.
And this is what happens when Stella and Dad are left alone with the sensory scarves. I actually went back and grabbed the safari animals that I had rotated into her shelf because for the past week she just was not interested in them. I was trying to get rid of the insects because I'm just not a big fan of them, and she seems to have lost interest in them as well. So she wasn't into the safari animals, so we tried aquatic animals, and something about them did get her interested. So that's what we've got on the shelf now instead. I'm also condensing down our teething toys so that they're all in one spot and easy to access instead of being thrown around the entire house.
Some of these are quite beautiful, so I'm going to try to display them up here. I think she's actually ready for this shape sorter, so I'm going to set it aside to get washed and put on her shelf instead. She's actually gotten tired of her single shape puzzle, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate that one out. And I think I'll introduce her to this one again. She really liked this one before. And then we've got some materials that she is way too young for still, like this one, this number activity. It's definitely going to come in when she is an older toddler.
Well, yes, that is another box full of materials that Stella is not yet ready for, so I'm going to put them into a plastic storage container so it can go into our storage closet. Got caught making a bigger mess than what I've actually cleaned so far. My biggest piece of advice is going to be to set aside a space where you can store your child's toys that are out of rotation ahead of time, and potentially have a space where you can store also materials that you have purchased but your child is not yet ready for. It definitely wasn't difficult to do this cleanup, but it would have been so much better if I had this prepared ahead of time.
Now I've got 2 bins that need to go into our storage closet back there. This is a lot better than what it was.
So here I'm packing away the items that she used when she was much younger. She no longer reaches for them when they're on her shelf, but there is a novelty to them because they're packed away. So when we take them to the doctor's office or for longer car rides, it's something that's new and interesting, and it keeps her entertained just long enough for us to get to our final destination or to get the appointment over with. And I'm using my leftover bags that I used to store her frozen milk in. Here I'm also putting away the extra baskets that I have to display her materials, and that's a good point to remember is not only do you need space to store the extra materials for your child, you also need the space to store the materials that you'll be using to display the materials for your child.
Don't ask me why we have so many of these, but we've got a variety.
I call this one Mom is Buffering pose.
And so this is what we're looking like after. It's definitely not the most beautiful setup just because we are missing a lot of furniture, so I've got these random boxes still hanging out here, but it's definitely a lot cleaner than it was. Here's my boxes and our little Santa, and these boxes are the ones that we do need to put into our little storage closet. So finally this whole area is empty. We obviously need actual furniture here, but for now this is what we're working with. So like this is the section where I'm just keeping items that we take to travel or my extra baskets. And here is just our actual office supplies and stuff like that. So I'm really happy I was able to utilize this cabinet to store a lot of the materials. On the left is supposed to be our decorations, but we moved a lot of them to the room we actually hang out in. And these are all of my books from when I was studying to get my master's, and I put some of our cookbooks and our Korean books in here. This is now Stella's section, so these are kind of the more beautiful materials that I'm sure she's going to be ready for any moment now. So I've got them displayed up here. These are the books, like I talked about, that in the very front are going to be going into rotation very soon. The ones behind are going to be going into rotation after that. On the side here I've got a little bit of the parenting books. Got the little abacus up there just because it's really cool, and I'm sure she'll be interested in just at least touching it once in a while. Got some other decorations up there that are quite miscellaneous. And if I bring you lower, and down here we've got the extra language works, we've got all of the extra puzzles that we have. This is a little Pathfinder work for her. Got a lot more books that she'll be reading when she's an actual teenager, I think, is more like these are the young adult books. And we've got our little paints over there. So this section she's actually usually not very good at getting into because it's not quite that easy without handles to get into it. But if she does get into anything over here aside from the paint, which would be quite difficult to pull down, I'm quite okay with that.
And now in the awkward part where there should be an outro, but in all the craziness of getting this cleaned up and making it in time before bath time, I did not film one. So I hope this did give you some inspiration and motivation for setting up an organized space for toy rotation. And until next time, I hope you stay safe.